boom, it's back on. It was turning back on. So it's turning on its own.
Okay.
So this is the real estate segment. Dude, I think we got to talk about inventory.
Okay.
I mean that's the story of the world is inventory, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're ready?
Yep.
Hello, Austin, Texas. You're listening to the Home Team with Troy and Wyatt, where we bring sports and money together for your education and entertainment. If you have any questions about anything we say today, please reach out to me at loansfromtroy.com or give me a call at 855-299-HOME. And as always, this segment is brought to you by Security National Mortgage, where we turn houses into homes by financing
Your
American Dream.
That's right. Well, hey, so this American dream has been, it's still there, no matter what, right? I think the big question out there is a good time to buy or a good time to sell? And the answer that I guess it's always a good time to buy or sell, right? Or buy, right?
Honestly, I can say the only time, I've been in the mortgage business almost 20 years, right?
Long time.
Right, like a few months from 20 years. 20 years, and that's spanning 3 different decades. And there's been 3 years, right? 2009, 10, and 11, but really not 11. But 2009 and 2010 was the only time it wasn't good to be a seller. And 11, maybe 11, yeah.
Because it dropped so low.
Yeah, in 2008 the market crashed.
Yep.
Right. It was a mortgage program induced crash. So it wasn't the natural evolution of the economy. It was something. It was bad practices that created the crash.
Right.
It created a pretty painful crash. And so in 2009 the prices were lower than 2008. 2010 they were lower than 2008. In the first part of 2011 they were lower than 2008. Right? But by the end of 2011, and that was in 2000. And that 2008 crash was the worst housing crash ever. I mean, we had some bad ones in Texas in the 80s and everything else. That was
it was worse in the 80s.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and ever, and but yet it was 30 months in and out. So so in this century, which is almost a quarter century old, there's been 2.5 years that it wasn't good to be a seller. Right. Other than that, it's always good to be a seller.
Right.
And on the other side, it's always good to be a buyer.
Right.
Everybody's kind of Austin had 6% appreciation in 2022. 5.9, 5.8 to a little bit of this. Somebody was like, well,
6%.
I said that last week and it was told that it's not 6%. So I wanted to say it was almost 6%. How's that? That's big considering the purchase transactions were down 52% year over year. So from 21 to 22, they sold half as many homes, but yet had a 5-point-something% appreciation.
Wow.
That's a big number.
It's a big number.
This year, 23, it appears to be a 20% reduction in sales from 22 to 23, right? Mm-hmm. So we're still going to have another 20% on top of a 50%, right?
Right.
So that's when you think about it. So 400 or 50, it was 57. So it'd be 40, and then 20% of that is another 9. It'd be 36. So that's 64%.
Wow.
Reduction from 2021 to 2020 to the end of 23. Right. It's a 64% reduction in purchase. But we're already on track at 3.5% appreciation. They expect more. Right? So here's the question. Why, if we've had a 64% reduction in sales over 30 months, 20 months.
This is nationwide, you're saying?
Yes.
Nationwide.
Yes, nationwide. That number, we're at 64%, but yet in Austin, we had a almost 6% appreciation. We're at 3.5% for sure. The numbers aren't quite out for the second quarter. I think that's going to be higher. I think it'll be closer to 5% when the numbers come out from the second quarter. So how are we having appreciation when demand has dropped by 64%? How is that happening? I know this answer. It's not. I'm just asking you.
Well,
You want me to give you a hint?
it's all about how many houses are available.
Inventory.
Yeah.
Inventory.
Yeah.
That's the hint. The hint is inventory.
Supply demand.
Yes.
Supply demand.
Right, but see, demand.
We have more humans on the earth who want houses. So.
Right, but demand has dropped by 64%, but it still is higher than supply. We talked about it in 2020, 2021.
Right.
We talked about it. We stopped talking about it in 2022. But the issue's still there, and it is inventory.
So right now, basically, the best buyer, or the buyer that needs to jump out there, is a first-time home buyer.
Yes.
Because that's why there's a pause. There's people who are already in their house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, "Hey, I'm holding off.
Yeah.
I got my 2%. I'm gonna remodel. I'm gonna add a pool. I'm gonna add an addition.
Mm-hmm.
We had a kid. Instead of moving, we're gonna add another room.
Mm-hmm.
But there's they still want a bigger house. They still
Mm-hmm.
want to be in a different area, but they're gonna hold off. So there's houses available,
Mm-hmm.
and then like we've talked before, if the interest rate or when the interest rate goes down, not if. Then we have another boom. So if you are a first-time home buyer, you should be out there in the market right now.
You get it now. I've talked many times about Dave Ramsey and how I'm not a disciple, but I definitely follow and listen. I've listened to him. I follow his teachings, read his books, everything else. I believe in his concept.
Right.
And he has been preaching over the last 30, 45 days that you need to be buying a house.
That's why you named your kid Dave Ramsey?
Dave, just
Oh,
Dave.
Dave. Okay.
And yeah, Dave R.
Dave R?
Yeah,
Daver?
Daver. I was gonna name him Danver, but I named him Daver. But he's even saying the same thing, and the reason why he says that, it's not. He says the same thing, and I didn't. He says that it's not timing. Right? Everybody's like, when's the best time? The best time is right at this moment. It's not timing. It's about how long you've been in the market. So he talks about you have to start your appreciation clock sooner. Right? The sooner you start it, the sooner you can cash in on it. Right? And then he also talks about the rate. And he says, well, the rate should not matter, because if the rates are high now and they're always, and there's only two things that can happen.
Right.
They can either stay,
Right.
or continue going up. But that becomes the rate. And at
Right.
some point you have to get out of an apartment, out of your parents' house, out of your college dorm. You have to get out of that and you have to buy a home, right? So it doesn't matter what the rate is, because if that's the new rate, that's what you're gonna buy it now. You're gonna pay that rate today or next year. But if you pay it next year, you're 6% more in cost of home.
Sure. Now
Right?
people out there listening are going, there is a better time to buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the point you're trying to make. Right? And if you can look back in the years, you can say, oh, yes, May of 2000, whatever, was the best month that year to buy. But to try to match that and try to make that, and with all these variables that are happening right now, you're going to still enjoy that variable.
Do you know that looking back, October of 2010 was the best time to buy, according to value, right? I didn't buy all my properties until 2013. Why? Because I wanted to make sure we were fully out and moving in the right direction.
Sure.
I did great on my properties, and I was 3 years later than the best time.
But the negative chances of things happening are far outweigh waiting for that one moment that you can grab in. Like, there's so many other bad things that can happen if you don't jump in now. Right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, you got to think. I've talked to people for the last 2 years that were waiting for the housing pricings to come down to buy a home. They're only more expensive.
Sure.
If they'd have bought a house 2 years ago, they would have paid a better interest rate at a lower sales price.
Right.
I mean, that's always the answer.
Right. Could you do it if you had a magic ball? Yes.
But no one does.
But
it's just like the stock market.
Right. You have like maybe a 5% chance of making that little mark.
Yeah, it's time in the market.
And
it's
about
not
100% chance of the price going up.
Right, tying in the market is silly. And again, if you have anyone you trust financially that is what I call a money guy, it could be a money gal, doesn't matter. I'm just saying, but a money person. Yeah. But if you have someone that you talk to them about it, and you just talk to them about timing the market, and they're just like, you can't do it.
Money peeps. Your money peeps.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't time the market. He says, you get good solid things and get in them and just stay in them. It's timing. It's time in the market, not timing of the market.
And it makes sense because everyone always says, and you get it quite a bit, I should have.
Yeah.
I should have.
And then Dave Ramsey says, but like I said, he says either today is the new rate, and that's what it is, so you're eventually going to pay the rate, or the rate falls in a certain period of future time, and you just refinance.
Right.
You know, most companies, I know Security National Mortgage is offering a no-cost refinance, as in lender cost, not total cost.
Right.
So there are plenty of options. But we did the numbers. We did the numbers. If you wait, you buy a house now, it's $450, right? At 7%. Payment's $2,500. You wait 2 years from now, interest rates are at 5%, but the house is at $490. Your payments are 23 and some change, right? So you save $200, okay? But you spent $40,000 in sales price, and it costs you, $3,000 to refi. So you spent an extra $37,000 to save.
Is that a lot of money?
Less than $200. It's a lot to me.
I'm just playing.
It's a lot to me. So
$30,000 is a lot to everyone in the world.
yeah. So and the issue is inventory. It's not anything else. It's not anything else. It's inventory. There's not enough homes in the market. We have a total available homes for sale of 5,000 homes in the Austin area. Right?
And
There are 3 million people and supposedly 107 people moving here a day.
Right.
In the area. And there's 5,000 homes.
And
In 50 days, the people moving here bought up all the homes.
And builders aren't building right now. Not as much.
And not as much. And the reason
They
why.
have a lot of inventory.
Well, the reason why they're not building as much is because of cost of funds. I mean, it's costing them 10, 11% on construction money. And so that's a lot of money. And so
Although it's changed.
they have to pass that money along to the borrower so the house becomes more expensive. So they're only building homes that are pre-sold right now. Or in general. In general.
Yeah. They had a lot on they had a lot on the ground, and that's where the problem is. They stopped building until they sold those.
Yep. Yeah, and all that's gone, and they're building some now. But they're like I said, they're not building unless they know it's sold.
Right.
So again, this is the time that the builders could help the inventory, but it costs them too much money.
I don't blame them.
So yeah, I mean, I get it. It's not. There's not a solid answer.
Yeah.
The answer is that if you're interested, you should get in the market sooner rather than later.
Well, stay tuned because I have some questions about this interest rate. So we'll talk about that a little bit in this next segment.
Absolutely. Hey, you've been listening to the Home Team with Troy and Wyatt. We hope you've enjoyed what you've heard. If you have any questions about anything we've said, please reach out to me at loansfromtroy.com or give me a call at 855-299-HOME. And as always, this segment was brought to you by Security National Mortgage. And we will see you in just a minute.